We're in a race against the Nazis. And I know what it means if the Nazis have a bomb.
It came out of the blue. That's Chris's MO. He just kind of, Emma, his wife and producer, called me and she said, oh, Chris wants to talk to you. And then he got on the phone. He said, I'm making a movie about Oppenheimer and I'd like you to play Oppenheimer. So it's just, you know, a very pleasant shock.
We all read American Prometheus. I remember on the flight to New Mexico when it was starting, everyone on board was reading that book. It was like the entire, all the scientists were reading the book. We're all trying to cram it before we started. But it was super helpful. There were endless little nuggets and wonderful little nuances to think about with the characters, and so that was a lot to kind of draw from. And the script itself was so visceral, so evocative, such lively characters that it was all there. You know, there was nothing you had to invent. It was all there.
It's massive opportunities to play in a movie like this anyway. To also play a character that was hugely a huge part of his story and a huge part of his grief and his inner workings, I suppose, of where he ended up, and also someone that is dealing with her own emotional story and her own emotional inner turmoil, was quite an opportunity considering the capacity that I had to do all of that with. But then again, I did have probably all of the best actors leading me through that, so it was wonderful. And of course, it's hugely important to play these women in history.
Well, the thing with IMAX, it's a very large, very loud camera, and you know, you've got to find ways to maintain the intimacy of the scene without distracting the actors. But what I found is that it's such an intense experience acting for it. I think even the sound of the camera is inspiring to the actors. You know, it's just a really wonderful format for putting the audience there.
I think a lot of people grew up with the Cold War looming, you know, throughout their young lives and adolescent lives. And it seems like we've all sort of like allowed that idea to recede, you know. And I think this is sort of the confrontation that is still very much there. We are going to be living with this decision that someone made to build an atomic bomb for the rest of our lives, and the threat is always there. So I think I understand why it leaves people feeling so distraught. Sort of right after we started shooting, the conflict broke out in the Ukraine. It just suddenly became so startling and so close to home, and we'd allowed it to sort of recede, you know.
Obviously, it's important to tell this story now because we are dealing with big moments in history again. But I think a man of this much power and this much intelligence should have a Christopher Nolan movie.
I think Oppenheimer's story is one of the most dramatic I know, and so I've really been drawn to it purely as a very exciting story to tell. Hopefully, the film lives, you know, on with people after they finish it. But you know, for me, really, it's all about story, the suspense, the drama.
We're all living in Oppenheimer's world now. We're all living in the nuclear age that he created, you know?
8, 7, 6, 5,